Hola, mi gente. Welcome back to another episode of Growing Up Spanglish podcast, coming to you live from our home for season 2, collab studios, smack dab in the middle of Miami. I am your host, Roxy, but remember, I'm starting to ease back into my born name, Rosalyn, which is an invite for you to call me that if you see me. Because for a long time, actually, if you knew me before college, you called me Rosalyn or Rosalind, as some people say. So that's how I knew, like, oh, you know me, like, you know me for real. But if you call me Roxy, you've met me after college and you've met me like in a creative
That makes sense.
aspect. So, it's an invitation. Call me Rosalyn. We're embracing it. But yeah, welcome back to another episode. This season, we're focusing on the broader South Florida. First season, we were just kind of focusing on guests from Miami, Florida. But so many people kind of were just like, what about us? What about us? So we were like, all right, Broward, West Palm Beach, pull up. So we're definitely extending it, telling more stories, of course. And so let's get into it with today's guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shanice. My family's from Costa Rica. I was born here in Miami. I was raised between here and Costa Rica.
Nice.
And originally, I spent most of my years in Little Havana, and then I moved up to North Miami. I'm a doula and a parent consultant. I'm a neurodivergent family specialist, and so I do a lot of things, a lot of everything, and a little bit of nothing sometimes.
What an interesting career. That is such a gift, I imagine, to be able to do that.
I love it.
We'll get into how you even got into that field. So you're from Costa Rica. We haven't had someone from Costa Rica.
No, this is the first
okay.
one, yeah.
I want to say that
Yes.
I'm usually the first Costa Rican people see or meet, and they're like, I don't know people from Costa Rica. I'm like, I know there's a reason for that. Immediately after being born, they shipped me off. It's like
Right at that.
a month after, shipped me straight there. And I spent like the first 3 years of my life in Costa Rica, came back to the US, but then I spent every summer, every spring break, every winter break in Costa Rica. So I was literally back and forth every year until I was 16. And I went to school in Costa Rica. Like every time I went for summer, there was no summer here. Like summer's here, no summer there.
Oh.
I'm in school there.
So like 3 months roughly?
Literally year round, I'm in school.
Oh.
Year round, I'm
Thought
in
they
school.
tried it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think it was to my benefit because I'm fluent in Spanish. I mean, I speak Spanish, I write it, I read it with the grammar and all, with the acentos and everything.
Oh, man, you're better than me. Oh, no.
As a result of being, raised there with educators in my family,
Right.
like there was no choice for me. It was like, you're going to come in. Let's get this done.
Right. What part of Costa Rica?
So Puerto Limón
Okay.
is where you'll find the people that look like me.
Okay.
And so my whole family's still there. All of them.
Where
It's
on
the Caribbean.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I was
yes.
going to say, like, that's...
It's literally touching Panama.
Okay.
So Bocas del Toro and Puerto Limón, Puerto Viejo, they're like right there.
Oh.
You can like walk over.
Wow.
Not from Puerto Limón itself, but from like Puerto Viejo, the edge of it. You can just walk over to Panama.
Okay.
And so it is, I want to say, the pearl of Costa Rica. It's like a little gem, and a lot of people don't know it exists. A lot of people don't go there. You've never heard of it probably until me.
Right.
But it's paradise to me. And every time I post about it, people are like, oh my God, where are you? I'm like, Costa Rica. They're like, but where? I'm like, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's sometimes nicer to keep those little hidden gems because when you get those areas that become super touristy, then change kind of comes and
That's happening now. And I will say that my whole life, it was a backpacker's place.
Okay.
So when I was growing up in Puerto Viejo specifically, European backpackers, Canadian backpackers, that's who was there. But those are people that are just traveling literally to see.
truly to enjoy
it.
and not to come
It's much different now.
colonize.
Literally, that's what's happening right now, right? Colonialism of people moving from the U.S. to say, oh, I can get more bang for my buck here. I can work remote here. And I'm just watching it like, sounds good in theory, but now the people that live there can't afford it, right? The same thing that's happening in Miami.
Right.
It's happening there. The same thing that's happening in Puerto Rico. It's happening there.
Yeah.
People don't think about how to travel and be somewhere ethically. And that's one of my biggest, like, That's my biggest beef with people that are going to other countries and
Right.
not thinking about how to do it properly.
Yeah, I was just last night having dinner with my family. We were talking about an area in Puerto Rico called La Perla. Have you heard of?
I have, like in
Okay.
passing.
Okay. So for people who are not aware, La Perla is literally a little subset of Viejo San Juan. So Viejo San Juan is a tourist attraction because it's literally like maintained structurally the same as like colonial times when Spain and all them people came. And so it's kind of like stepping back in time, right? So people love going there. It's amazing, amazing, wonderful, beautiful. And so right on, like, I don't know how to describe it, but here's the city of Viejo San Juan. And then if you kind of like look over an edge, then you realize like, oh shit, there's like a whole other town here, literally on the bay, like literally on the water. And that is a hot spot. Like you don't realize, you wouldn't think like, oh, so close to a major area, the capital of Puerto Rico, that there would be such a hot spot. But it's there, it exists. And for years, like I'm talking about like from when my dad was younger, like you don't fuck with them boys over there.
Right.
Like you don't go over there.
You're not from there, don't go there.
Right, you're not from there, you don't go there. Very big drug point, like all that jazz. Even up until a few years back during the pandemic when, because the way things work, Puerto Rico was like wide open. So everybody was either going to Tulum or Puerto Rico. And there was a big story where two guys wandered into the wrong area. And by wander, you don't go there unless you're looking for something specifically.
Right.
And they were murdered. And it was like this whole thing came out on the news. It was like this whole entire thing. Their family was looking for them, and it was very horrible what happened to them. But now, all of a sudden, like what has transpired in the past few years since COVID is that little by little, people have been converting their places into Airbnbs, and bars have been. And so like I see tourists posting that they're going there, and I'm like, what? Wait, like what? Like there's like whole entire like Airbnb experiences where they'll take you and like all this stuff. And I'm like, so I guess like one thing that my dad was talking about is like the people that are from there are like, all right, well, I want to make this money too. Like I want to tap into all the money that's coming in here from all the people wanting to now move here and stuff. But then there's like the other part where it's like, don't get too comfortable.
Don't get familiar.
Because that's when they start pushing you out. And that's a great look. It's on the water. So it's amazing views. Yeah, like they're going to come slowly but surely.
Develop it up.
Exactly. And so you're saying that it similarly is happening where you're from.
I would say that a lot of people now are just, it's a lot of empty land that was there in not Puerto Limón itself, but Puerto Viejo, which is like the beach coast. There's a lot of empty land that people are literally just buying up and building their homes and building retreat places, which is interesting to me to see. They're running retreats and things like this, but without including the people that are from there. And so you're hiring anybody else from outside of the country. You're not contributing to the economy there.
Right.
You're profiting from this country. You're coming to a country that's like non-capitalistic and then bringing your values here. And like you're not considering what that's doing to the country. Right. Costa Rica, while it's not like a super rich country, good economy for travel, but Limon specifically doesn't have the greatest economy, and you're coming there and not contributing.
Right.
You're making it worse.
And therefore displacing
the people that are there. The people that are there from there could buy land previously. Now you cannot buy land, right? It used to be affordable.
Yeah.
But if someone's coming with American dollars, euros, and they're saying, oh, I'll pay this.
Right.
Sure. So it's kind of hard to see that. Like myself, we have land there, but now it's like, hey, what do we do with this land?
Right.
Because we're seeing what's happening, and obviously we're from there, right? So it's very different from someone coming in and buying.
Right.
But you still want to like do it ethically.
Exactly.
So it's just been interesting to see how much the country's changed. Even the people that can tell you that they used to backpack there. If they still come, you can talk to them and they'll tell you this has changed a lot.
Right.
Like, used to be, it was hostels before. There were no hotels.
Right.
There was no luxury anything. It's slowly now becoming like luxury. It used to be where you go for a rustic vacation.
Right.
Because you're in like the jungle. You're You're in nature. You go there to be with nature. Now it's getting a little bit, bougie.
Yeah.
Not to say it's a bad thing,
And
but
it's interesting though, because that happened. I feel like there is just like a wave of that happening with everything. I talk about this with KJ all the time because I feel like social media has exasperated this, like, it's almost like it feels like a necessity. It is not a necessity to keep up with people, but it feels like you need to, like, the keeping up with the Joneses
oh yeah.
is like at an all-time high. But even to a degree of where you're saying, like, this used to be for backpackers, non-bougie. And so it's not to say like, oh, luxury can't come here or whatever, but even the way people travel
Yep.
is insane. It's just too much sometimes.
One of my biggest concerns is that people are going there and complaining about like the things that are like the power will go out. The power is
Mhm.
going to go out.
Mhm.
It could rain, the wind can blow a little too hard, your Wi-Fi is going to get knocked out. That's just what it is, right? The infrastructure there is not the greatest for a
Mhm.
reason. But when you're coming there and you're like, oh, this paradise, and then you're now complaining publicly, because I see a lot of people move to Costa Rica and they make content. And
Yeah.
they make content and they're like, this is my life. And then they turn it around and it's like, oh, the power gets knocked out. Like, you didn't do your research before coming here.
Right.
You didn't do your research. You talk about all the good things first and then you turn it around, all the bad things, and then you leave.
Right. We're not so upset when they leave.
You can leave, but also now you have we don't have a lot of press, but now you're giving us bad press.
Right. Right.
So I want things to change a little bit.
Mhm.
I know I have to be one of the people to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm mostly the only person that people know that's not only from Costa Rica, but from Puerto Limon, from the Puerto Viejo area. If you don't know me, most people are like, I've never even thought about that place before.
Right.
And so I want the vision of it to change.
Right.
But like with the people that are from there included in that.
Of
So,
course. One thing I do appreciate, I'm not really big on TikTok, but I do love when they come for somebody when they do that. They be like, well, did you know what we're doing? How dare you thought we was gonna clap for you? And I'm like, yes, get them. Because yeah, it's like it's a sense of entitlement. It is just like the white privilege of it all, of just like going somewhere and thinking that like, woe is you?
yeah, and I'll go as far as saying it's not even just white privilege, it's American privilege.
That part, yes.
I mean, because I used to be like, oh, like colonialism, but then I'm like, hold on. Everybody's doing this, like American specifically. You're going to these places, including people going to Puerto Rico,
Mhm.
and they're like, oh, but it's a part of America. I'm like, yeah, but this was its own place
Right.
prior to.
And a part of America, like, let's not forget, that doesn't have all of the rights of being a part of
Exactly.
America.
People like to like gloss over stuff
Right,
like that.
exactly.
So I would say like American people, and I'm still American, I was born here.
Right.
They have to like remove that like eye of like, I want to go somewhere else, but I still want it to be the United States of America. I still want all these luxuries. It doesn't exist.
Right.
And it's not going to. The culture is completely different. And you should go somewhere and respect the culture.
Right.
Anywhere you go, even if you move into a different neighborhood, you should go in there and respect the culture.
Right.
And I just want to see one day that happen. I know it will.
Yeah.
But it's just like a word for people to like travel ethically and go and do things that make sense.
It's interesting because you had said before about the retreats, but I guess the times that I have heard about Costa Rica was people going for these yoga retreats to get certified. Let's talk about it.
Honey, because I'm a yoga girly.
Okay.
I will say that growing up in Costa Rica, I had no access to yoga, right? I would see it come in there, but it's not accessible because you're looking at the price points there and it's like, I can't do that. And so luckily for me, growing up here, I had access to yoga in different ways. I moved to New York City where every corner there's something to do with yoga. And so when I looked into getting my yoga certification, at one point I was like, oh, I should do it at home in Costa Rica. There are a bunch there. And when I looked up the entities that were doing it, I was like, why are you charging $3,500 for a yoga retreat in a city specifically that there's nothing there that costs $3,500? There's nothing there that costs $3,500. Because if my family is poor and could be here, then $3,500 for a 21-day retreat to learn yoga, to get certified, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
They're scamming.
Right.
I'm going to say the truth straight up. They're scamming.
Yeah.
And they're profiting from it. And I hate to see that because there's a way to do this where you could profit, but also still do this like this is yoga we're talking about, right? The principles of yoga are goodness and all of those things. You're not really,
It doesn't align.
it doesn't match up.
Yeah.
I remember going last year and going to a new yoga place. It was beautiful. And I was like, I'm going to take a class. And I took the class. It was great. And I want to say there was one South Asian girl. She might have been like Bangladeshi or Indian. I'm not sure. And we both took the class and we were kind of like, this is interesting. And I left that just thinking, something's not right here. Something's just, it doesn't feel right to me. And I just kept looking up that one and others. And doing the math on it, you're making a solid $100,000 on these trainings because you're bringing in 25 to 35 people and you're putting them in rooms together, right? There's no single rooms.
Right.
You're paying for a triple or 4-people room, $3,500 each for 21 days.
So, in the retreat.
For the
They're
yoga
all
trainings.
squished together.
Squished together.
Okay.
Yeah, squished together. When you look at that, I'm like, wow, but people don't know better.
Yeah.
They're really coming here thinking they're getting that
Right.
experience. But
And then they also kind of wrap it up in the humbleness of it all.
That's the one.
Commune
That's
together.
That's the one. But when you look at it, it's like, no. Between the yoga like trainings and the retreats that are happening right now, I hate to say that, like, if you just look them up a little further, you'll see articles on a lot of these places.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, this is not what I thought it was going
Right.
to be. And last year, I planned out a whole retreat and everything because I was like, I'm going to do this because I'm from here. I can do this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to do it, but I'm busy right now.
You know what's funny? I have always wanted to go to a retreat. Not necessarily like a yoga one, but I have always felt kind of like called to, like, I just want to go somewhere where I can disconnect completely for real, be with nature, like really like touch the earth. And I'd love to do that with like-minded individuals. Like, I'm a very particular person. I don't want anyone pushing anything on me. I just really want to be able to like take a breath.
Jump out if you want to.
Right. So I've been like, oh, okay, let me look, because social media, like, you see so many different options often. So there was a person that I had started following maybe 2 years ago that had nothing to do with like retreat. I just followed them because we had very similar career goals. And so I was like, oh man, I'm inspired. I want to follow this person. So lo and behold, because this becomes everyone's sort of business,
Cash cow.
right, I'm going to sell courses, or I'm going to sell a retreat. I'm going to sell something. And sometimes it doesn't even really make sense with what they're doing, but either way. So the person decides to set up a retreat and, packages it up and everything, like, oh, this is going to be a retreat where all women can come together and you can feel safe and you can feel supported, and we're all within the same industry and this, that, and the other. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like, you know what? Maybe this is
because you think people have good intentions.
right. So I'm like, man, like, let me look, like, let me go there. The price point was redonkulous. And
no flights included.
no. And it was, let me tell you the setup. It was, they basically rented a house in Mexico, possibly Tulum. And so there's a limited number of rooms. And it was like, what's included is the stay. I think it was like less than a week. It wasn't even like 7 days. It was maybe like 4 to 5. The stay in the house, some experiences. So maybe some yoga in there, breakfast, a day out exploring or something fancy or whatever. And then what really blew me was, as not included in the package, an add-on for an insane amount of money was a one-on-one with the person who is putting together the retreat.
What you teaching me?
Right. So I'm paying extra to have a converse. Are we not going to speak while we're here? Like, I was just like, oh no, I don't like that at all. And just for my own shits and giggles, I watched the retreat come to life, happen, the people that were there. And I'm not going to lie, the way that I felt, essentially you found people that would pay for what you wanted to be your birthday celebration. because it turned out it was their birthday.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I was just like, I have no words.
I wish that wasn't so common, but I have literally seen the same thing happen over and over and over. And of course, every time a retreat pops up in Costa Rica, everybody sends it to me. Oh, look at this. And I'm like, no, don't do it.
Right.
No, don't. If you want the truth, like everyone asks me, like, what do you think? Nope, don't do it, because these people that are running these retreats are not thinking about how to bring groups together that make sense.
Right.
They're not thinking about personality matches.
Right.
They're not thinking about, actually, how do I make sure everybody has downtime? How do I make sure that everyone feels good on this trip, right? They don't care about interpersonal relationships or any of that. You know what they care about? Making a bag.
Right.
I respect it. Make your bag, right? But it's going to reflect on you later on.
Right.
Because when these people come back from this trip and they don't feel good.
Right. And that's the upsetting and hurtful part.
Feel good. They're going there to remove themselves from something. Right. I'm a solo travel girl. I'm gonna get up and I gotta go on a trip. 2 years ago, I went on a trip to Costa Rica, but to a part that I had never seen before. Like, I'm not from that side.
Okay.
It's very different. And I literally found a glass cabin in the middle of like nothing.
Oh my God.
Literally just farmland. And I said, I just want to go and just be by myself. And my cousin was going to come. My cousin dropped out on me. I was like, I'm still going. I don't care. And I went there. And when I tell you, it was 5 days of me sitting by myself, looking at cows. And the people that hosted it, the family, they live next door. So you could just walk over there if you want to. And they saw that I was by myself and they were like, are you okay? Are you okay? And like one night they brought me dinner. We didn't know if you have food. And I was like, I didn't bring like stuff, but we just want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
And after that second day, I spent the whole trip with them at their house, with the family. I milked the cow. They gave me fresh eggs. They made tortillas. Everything. At that point, I'm their cousin. Like, we still keep in contact on Instagram. And it was just a moment where I was like, this is where the retreats need to happen. Right here in these kind of spaces, right?
Right.
People are not thinking about things like that.
Right.
I went there to connect with myself and to be in silence and nature. That's what I think. For me, there's all kind of different retreats, right? What I'm thinking is people want to escape from things. You don't push too much on them.
Right.
You figure out how to make it make sense.
Right.
And for me, running my retreat, when I was going to, it was a lot of time to be with yourself, but also here, I'm going to have a mental health specialist here on this, on site for you to, whatever point you want to go and talk to them, they're here. Sound bowl specialist. There's going to be everything that makes sense for a healing experience. That's what people are looking for.
Right.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what people are looking for, healing experience. I don't want to go on a retreat and party. I could do that at home.
Or at least just don't call it a retreat.
No, it's a girls trip.
Right.
And we can do that. That's fine. A lot of people aren't going to go on that girls trip.
Right.
But people that are looking for retreats are looking for a space to be with, you said, like-minded people. But if I'm on this trip and I, for example, I don't drink heavily, if have a sip, and then people here are like, nah, I want to turn up.
Right.
It's not making sense, right? I want to go out every single day and party. This person wants to go ATV riding and hiking.
Right.
It's not a good mesh. People don't think about that, unfortunately. And we're gonna find people who do. Don't worry about it.
If you come across, yeah, you let me know. But let's talk about your family. And so you said that these retreats are popping up. These, I guess, because people are moving. There's, I imagine, businesses that are popping up and stuff like that. But the people that you know, and maybe even your family, are not benefiting from these things. So what does your family do there?
So my family's very complicated. So half of my family is from the campo.
Okay.
I grew up on the farm.
Okay.
Literally. And they're still there, a lot of them. The other half of my family was from the city. And they're like teachers and nurses and doctors, all those things, educators. They work for the government. So the family that's from the city, they stay in the city.
They're good.
They're good. The families from the campo, they're the ones that kind of end up going out to the Caribbean side, the beach side, to find work in hospitality. Because that's what you do. You if you leave from the campo, your only other option really is go to the capital and find something to do, or go to the Caribbean side and work at a hotel, work in a restaurant. You know how to cook. Those are basic things you can do. And so my family still, they do whatever they got to do to get by, really and truly. I will say that the majority of my family does still live in the campo. And so it's a place where in the campo you can live off whatever you have.
You live off the land.
You live off the land.
Yeah.
And things are not expensive. You own your house. You don't have to pay rent. You
Right.
pay the minimum of whatever it is.
Right.
It's survivable
It's
without
a simple life.
But they're happy.
Yeah.
But they're so happy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They do a lot of everything.
Gotcha.
Do a lot of everything.
Okay.
And I will say that while there's not that much opportunity, most people will come to the US for a little bit of time and like work, make money, and immediately go back home.
I wonder if maybe that's why there's not so many people that will say, I know someone from Costa Rica.
Yes, that's exactly why.
Okay. It's all making sense.
So because of how sustainable life is in Costa Rica, there are not that many reasons to leave, right?
Okay.
You have healthcare, like universal healthcare. You have your food that you can buy or grow. It's easy to live even without like that much money, right?
Mhm.
So if you do want to make much more money, you know, okay, my options are leave the country. A lot
Right.
of people end up in Europe, Canada.
Okay.
The US is usually the last option for Costa Rican.
Interesting.
Last option. Because they can see how hard life is here. Yeah, so the US is the last resort for Costa Ricans leaving the countries for a better opportunity. It's usually Europe, Germany, Sweden, all those countries.
I would love to know the history behind that decision.
Would love to know too.
Okay.
I just see that like people do it in my
You
like, all
just
of my-
an observation.
Yeah.
Because most other guests have stated that it's their first choice.
No. And the only reason that Costa Ricans will come to the US as a first choice is for the financial opportunity, but not to stay,
Got it.
right? That's why you don't meet many of us.
Right.
You come here, you do what you gotta do, you go home
Yeah.
immediately. I will say that a big part of that for me, growing up between two countries, is realizing how disconnected I am from the things that are the American dream, right?
Mm.
And people used to laugh at me, they get it now. When growing up, I said, I don't want to buy a house. I actually don't want to have a car. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I'm 31. I've never owned a car.
Really?
Never in my life.
I also don't want a house, but that
Right?
I've been talking to KJ about it.
And
the
so-
reason for me is because I grew up in a like big house. And so by the time that I came around, my parents were already doing well for themselves,
Mhm.
right? So I got to benefit all those things.
Yeah.
And I saw, but
much
also
work.
participated in how much work it
Right.
takes to have a house that big for your whole family. And also, you don't just have the house, you constantly, if you were
Repair.
anything like my dad, you want to fix this, you want to remodel this, you
Mhm.
want to da 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 da. And so I was just like, on my list of things that I need to accomplish, owning a house is not.
One. So for me, looking at how many things here didn't make sense to me, like not only owning the house, but the mortgage of the
Right.
20 to 30 years.
And then
of
you
the
you
debt.
own it, and then you got property tax.
And then you got this and you
You're
got
just
that.
never done.
It never made sense to me, right? As a kid. And people would be like, what do you mean? I'm like, listen, I'm going home to Costa Rica. As a kid, I was saying that. I'm going home to Costa Rica. And they'd be like, I don't understand. Like, don't worry about it. Because I know what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm going home. And so for me, all of those things, the credit card, I didn't even have credit. Like, I didn't have a credit card until I was like 27.
Wow.
I mean, nothing. Because in my head, I was like,
I don't need to be tied down.
don't even tie me to none of this stuff.
Right.
I'm not staying here. It doesn't matter to me. I found out that you got to have credit here.
At some point.
You have to. So by my
Wait, how did you do education?
I went to college, community college, honey.
Okay.
Because for me, I'm like, listen, I got to do everything with the least amount of money.
Got it.
Right? When you grow up poor, you don't have many options. You know, you got to get out. But how can I do this without getting into debt?
Yeah.
That was always my thought, right? I saw my family who came here to the US get into like credit card debt and stuff like that. And I was like, it ain't gonna be me. Immediately, it's not gonna be me.
right.
Just because like it's a revolving cycle.
Right.
And I didn't make sense to me because you get into debt and then you get stuck here.
Mhm.
Right? That's what I've seen my family members do. The three of them that came here. My grandma is one out of 13 siblings. And only 3 of them came to the US. So my grandma was the first one to come here. They came when my mom was like 15, 16. And they came because my grandfather passed away.
Okay.
And so really and truly, they could have stayed in Costa Rica. But I guess my grandma was like, trauma, gotta go. Really, that's what I know it is. Trauma,
Yeah.
gotta go. They came here, they moved to Brooklyn. So my family touched down in Brooklyn first.
Okay.
And then ended up in Miami, where 2 of my grandma's other sisters came and have been here since. My problem is I've seen them come here, work here, get sick. because when you work at the capacity that they have had to work, you just are always on your body.
Right.
You're stressing yourself out. You're
And
setting
back
yourself.
home, everyone's a little more lax.
Everybody's like, do they get sick? Maybe yes, but later on in life, right? It didn't. Something wasn't matching up to me, and for me, I was like, it's the lifestyle.
It's
the
amazing for
lifestyle.
you to make that observation and those decisions for yourself. Like, oh, okay, I see what's happening.
I saw what you did. I'm not doing it.
Right.
And it's just as a result of like, I'm very, I guess intuitive would be the word, right? Something feels wrong. Cool. I'm gonna leave. I'm getting out. I gotta go.
Yeah.
And my mom taught me that, right? My mom is the kind of person that if something is not right, she'll tell me, girl, get out. You don't
Yeah.
gotta stay there. As a result of my mom watching how things were like in the time before her,
Yeah.
right? My mom came to the US. My dad came a few years after. Like they were sweethearts in Costa Rica. My dad came here. They got married. Mom was like, actually, I didn't want to get married, but I got pregnant. So we Catholic. I guess I do have to get married.
Right.
But 3 years into it, my mom was like, this ain't it for me. And my mom decided we're going to get a divorce. That's a big shame in our culture, right?
Yeah.
Because if you get married, or just don't get married, but if you get married, you stay married forever. Does not matter.
Right.
You stay
Especially
married.
if you were raised Catholic.
Exactly. And so my mom got a divorce, and my mom getting a divorce taught me that I don't have to stay nowhere.
Right.
I don't got to do nothing I don't want to do for no reason. So a job, a house, an apartment, a city, I'm going to get the fuck every time.
What's crazy about what she's saying though, like, and it's for those of you who don't know, hey, it's KJ. But what's crazy is I've known Shanice since high school, but knowing her, I think it's beautiful to watch her do it in real time, the get up and go, because you're like, bro, she really always figures this shit out.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. Like it's part of her grace. Like I think everybody has specific grace over their lives where they could go do certain things, and it seems to be part of hers. Like no one else's. Like I can't even should have to tell you like the shit that she's been through and figure it out.
In Aquarius?
I'm a Libra.
Oh, okay.
Libra sun, Leo moon, Cancer rising.
Okay.
However, like he said, it's the grace of get up and go. I have moved 13 times in the last 10 years.
Wow.
Yep. And one of those moves includes Paris for a short time.
Oh my God.
I have moved to New York City twice. I've moved several times inside New York City. I have moved to Tennessee, to Nashville. Hated it. It was awful. Came back. I just get up and go.
I would love to further explore this.
Of course.
With you, because I'm getting ready to head to Puerto Rico for a few months. And one thing is that I can't commit to how long I'm going to be there. And I don't know if it's that I don't want to commit or that I'm afraid that if I commit, I'm going to miss out on something else. I don't know what that's about. I have to explore it further.
So nothing is permanent. And
Right.
nothing has to be permanent. That's the best part of life is you
I was
can
just
do
telling you
whatever you want.
I was saying that I recently heard something about attachment and learning how to detach. So interesting that you just said
I
that.
grew up being a very detached person, and I can't say that it's the greatest thing. It's a result of trauma, my detachment from things. I lost a lot of my family members really early in life. And so for me, it's like, let's not get too attached to this. Let's just make sure we can keep it moving at all times.
Right.
But what I will say is that for me, I've never wanted to be held down to one place other than Costa Rica. That's my end goal is there, right? Other than that, it's like, I want to go see as many things as possible. I think I mentioned that I grew up in North Miami. It's a very...
I grew up in North Miami.
So then you know already, right? Ain't much to do there.
Right.
And if you want to get out, you got to do something big to get out, right? And so I decided I'm going to move to New York City.
Like fresh out of high school?
Like 2 years after high school.
Okay.
I didn't know nobody in New York City. I think I knew one person. I had no plan. I had $600. I had no job in New York City, but I said, I'm going to find one when I get there. I worked at a retail.
$600. What year?
2013.
Okay.
It wasn't too much, but you can make some shake with $600
Right.
in 2013. And so I just was like, okay, everybody's like, what do you mean you're moving to New York City? I was like, listen, I don't know how to explain it, but it's something there. What do you mean? Like, I don't know. It's something there. What do you mean? I don't know. I literally had a boyfriend who I was living with at the time. And I said, listen, baby, I got to go. I have to go. Listen, you can come, you can stay, we can break up, but I'm going.
I love this energy.
He said, do your thing. And so I went and I made life shake.
Yeah.
I made shit shake. What can I say? That's what I do.
How do you reconcile with what I perceive, because that may not be what you're experiencing, no stability? That's the part that's scary. It's like, you're not do I buy furniture? Like, where does it go? Like that.
I get rid of it every single time. And I think that's a part of the grace, right? I don't have attachment to these things. I will simply get rid of them. And my favorite part is that when I get rid of them, I just give them away. For the most part, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, what can I sell? At the end of the day, it ends up being, hey, who want to come get this? Somebody needs it. Come get it.
I think I needed to have this. I think this needed to happen because
Listen, he said grace, and I'm going to tell you that it's grace. Because the things that I have experienced in life should have taken me out a long time ago, right? I lost my father 3 months before graduating high school. And that same year before, my aunt, my uncle, and my grandma passed away, right? That's junior and senior year of high school. That kind of set the tone for my life. I was like, what am I doing right now?
Wow.
And so after that, like, you lost a lot. Girl, you ain't got nothing to lose. I literally have nothing to lose and everything to gain, right? What's out there for me? Something. And every time I go look, I find it.
You were so inspiring. I love having, this is why I love what I do. I love having conversations with people that intrigue me. I like to have conversations with people that inspire me, that teach me something, because I am always looking to evolve, right? And so I'm drawn to people that help me learn something that can help me get to the next step. So I'm loving this conversation because I speak with KJ and another friend of ours in a group chat daily. Like, literally daily, I speak with these people every day.
Every day.
And so the things that you are talking about are literally things that are happening in this group chat. I'm just talking about detachment. And so it's just, this is amazing. The timing is just everything that I needed to hear.
Listen, one of my gifts is making people feel seen, but also saying whatever it is that you need. Like, I'm simply a vessel. Whatever you can ask KJ. Like, literally, our whole life has been me just saying stuff to him.
Yeah.
Whatever I got to say, whatever's on my heart, I'm going to say it to you.
Yeah.
Because you need it now or you need it later.
Right.
But you need it some way. And my life has been living my life so that other people can see it, right? Most of the people I know have told me, I have never thought to move. I would have never thought to do this. But I saw you do it. And we're from the same neighborhood. And if you did it, then I can do this too. Of course you can.
Right.
Somebody got to do it.
Right.
I didn't know anybody that left our neighborhood and went to go live life. I was like, but I got to do it. I don't care if anybody else is going to. I don't care if anybody gets it. I don't care if it makes sense to anybody.
Right.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever is in your heart, in your gut, whatever you're feeling, you do it. It doesn't have to make sense now. It's going to make sense later on.
Right.
One thing I definitely want to say about what she's saying, though, is she'll go through these moments of just like, yo, I'm about to do this. And I'm like, yo, did you talk to God? Right? And she's like, all right, nigga, you got me. Okay, you got me. Fine. Let me go do it. Let me go talk to God. And then, like, yo, shit will just like line up. Like, I can't even explain it because she'll send me stuff and she'll be like, bro, this what happened today. And I'm like, fam, what? Like, you know, like, you understand favor, you understand grace.
Yeah.
I joke all the time and think that I'm God's favorite, like, amongst my circle, but Shanice might really be the one.
Sky Daddy's favorite. And I don't play. I'm really God's favorite, and I don't know what the grace is that I was given.
Yeah.
It's these people in these pictures, clearly.
Yes.
That gave me a lot of grace because, like he said, I'll talk to him and I'll be like, do you think I should? He'll be like, did you pray about it? And I'll be like, I didn't, but I'm going to. And then I'll be like, okay, I'll pray about it. And it'll be like, I already told you this, though.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, the feeling I was having was the idea that was put into my head.
Maybe I don't have the faith that I think I have.
Here's what I gotta say, right? Faith doesn't look the same for everybody.
Right.
And so outwardly, I don't look like a crazy God-believing lady. I just look like a crazy spiritual lady. Yeah, that's fine. But at the end of it, it's God, always, right?
Right.
Doesn't
Right.
matter.
But there's
how
a
it
difference
looks.
between, like, I have faith and I'm spiritual. But maybe if I'm not taking those leaps, I'm basically questioning God.
You just got to get there.
Right.
You just got to get there.
Right.
I have seen what life has done for me. Like, I've seen what jumping off the
Yes.
cliff has done for me. I'm going to get caught every time. I can jump. It's going to be, oh, I got you.
Right.
Now, hold on. Let's slow it down because let me tell you something. Not everybody got that, right?
You're right.
Like we saw that there's like a video that went viral this week on TikTok where the girl was like, she moved to Japan
Huh.
with no plan from like New Orleans or something.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's like homeless in Thailand and has been homeless for like 5 months, right? So like she's moved from Japan. The day she got to Japan, she said she realized, oh, this is really expensive compared to what I saved. So she took like another first class flight or another not first class
We
flight.
talking about, because that's where you fucked up.
My fault.
Okay.
Not another first class flight, but another flight the same day to Thailand. Another one-way flight to Thailand. And got to Thailand and realized, oh shit, I'm in a really tough spot. And she wasn't able to find work. And she's currently homeless and like doing odd jobs and ends, right? So like, that's why I always tell her, yo, did you talk to God?
Right.
Because it's, yes, you could have the faith. You could
Yeah.
totally jump out the window and like end up on this like amazing cliff that you're about to jump from
Yeah.
and might not get caught.
You're right.
You feel me? So like, I'm not putting that out there as a fear for anyone. I'm saying, yo, still do the human steps of adequate planning,
Right.
making sure things are right, and then take the jump, take that leap of faith. And I think that's also part of Shanice to some degree. She's not like blindly going
Right.
out there.
There's some
I
preparation.
would say that the big thing here for me is alignment.
Yeah.
I try to live my life in alignment with what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. And that's really the biggest part of the grace.
That's
is
it.
Whatever I'm supposed to be doing, I'm going to go do that.
Right. It's aligning with your purpose, which is another big thing.
I put myself in position to be where I got to be, and it gets me there. And he knows it. He knows the work that I've done that I can't talk about. But it's got me in rooms where I'm like, how did I get here?
Right.
How did I get around these people? Like, I don't fit here, but I fit.
Right.
Not only I fit, they come and shake my hand. They come and say, nice to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
Put it like this, because she can't say it,
I can't say
but
it.
I'll say it. She's worked for some amazing, I mean,
In being a doula.
I was previously a nanny before being
Oh,
a
you were
doula.
previously a nanny.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
we got to touch on how she got there from New York and
Yes.
all the things, but like, she's worked for the bar.
Okay.
And like, we recently seen a bar. So like, if you can put the pieces together,
Perfect.
you'll
Okay.
understand.
Seen. Heard.
Yeah.
Heard.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I wanted to touch on, which was interesting, before we hit record, you said that Puerto Ricans have always kind of let you be like, yeah, you Puerto Rican. You're like, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But you grew up in North Miami,
Yeah.
which I would assume everyone is going to think you're Haitian.
All right, so I got that for you, right? So I grew up the first 10, 11 years of my life in Little Havana.
Okay, yes.
So that's the biggest part of not being able to figure out where I fit. Because it's like everybody, they hear you speak Spanish. First, they're like, oh, they just look at you. Oh, you're a black girl. I am. They look at you and then they hear me open my mouth. And it's, oh, yo pensé que tú eras morena. I am. What are you talking about? You see the face? You see I am. However, I'm Costa Rican. Oh, Puerto Rico. Yeah. All right.
And you're just like, I'm going to
Cool.
let it slide.
And it's either, oh, are you Cuban? Oh, are you Panamanian? Oh, are you Honduran? It's always a list of things. It's never Costa Rica.
Right.
But when I get to Costa Rica, whatever in their head goes, oh, Puerto Rico. And I was just like, yeah, cool. So a lot of my life I went through like just being whatever people thought I was.
And you were
for the
okay
most
with
part.
that.
Yeah, because
It wasn't a hang up.
it wasn't because it's like I trying to explain to people, oh, you're Costa Rican. I didn't know there were black people there.
Right.
And it's like, black people everywhere. But here's how, right?
Right.
I like to explain to people, well, I'm Costa Rican. However, 4 or 5 generations of my family got to Costa Rica from Jamaica.
Got it.
So it's a big thing. And instead of explaining all that, yep, I'm whatever you want me to be at
Right.
that point. So I only really fit in with like a large group of people that are here are Puerto Ricans.
Right.
They're the only ones that I saw that are like, okay, you could be my cousin. You look like one of my cousins.
Right, right.
And it wasn't a big thing like, like, no, I'm not really. I know black papi, I know black. I didn't feel that from Puerto Ricans, me personally.
That's very
And
interesting.
so after leaving Little Havana and kind of blending into whoever they wanted me to be, I moved to North Miami,
Right.
where it's majority Haitian. And I was like, hold on, this feels, I like this. I like this that? And when I say I integrated myself, because there was nowhere for me to fit, right? I have an American name. I don't have a Latino Spanish nothing last name. I have a
Right.
straight American name.
Okay.
And so people are like, I can't place you anywhere. So you're just American. I'm like, cool, if you want me to be American, I can be. But when I got to North Miami, it was like, oh, but you look like us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I fit right in. And when you spend enough time there, you do fit right in, right? At the point where I can now understand Creole. I can speak it if I have to. Most of the people I dated are Haitian men. And that's my family at this point. Like my first love, he passed away, God rest his soul. His family is still my family. I can still call his mom, his grandma. They still call me.
Yeah.
It's just you just assimilate into whatever it is.
You have an adaptable
That's who I am.
personality.
Wherever I gotta be, wherever I gotta fit,
Yeah.
I do that. And so I will say that, like I said, so Puerto Ricans were the first people to kind of just like, you could fit here. You
Right.
look like us too. We all look different, but you do look like us.
I feel like that with that comes a certain sense of self and being sure and secure of who you are.
Yes. But for a long time, it was an identity crisis.
Ah.
For a long time, it was an identity crisis of, I don't speak Spanish. Sometimes I do, right? But I just don't do it because I don't want people questioning me. I don't want it to be what it normally is. Where did you learn Spanish? How is your accent so good? And I'm like, honey, my accent is better than yours, actually.
Let them know.
I speak, read, and write it. You only do one. So it's like a microaggression that's constantly on me. And at one point I was like, I just don't want to do this no more. Like, I don't want to explain myself. I don't want you to pull my card to see how Latina I am. Because it's definitely more than you. The people that like come at me like that.
Right.
Like, honey, I was raised in Costa Rica. Raised there.
Right.
I was in the campo with my shoes off.
Right. Let's talk about the Afro-Latinidad of it all, right? And you said the microaggressions because you're experiencing them from multiple areas, from the Hispanic culture and then from the white American culture. I wonder if there was anything, it sounds like you were embraced from the Black American side of it.
So at several times in my life, it was like, I got nowhere. Like, that really gets me. Before I got to North Miami, I got nowhere that really gets me. Because I went to school here in Little Havana. Not here, but in Little Havana, I went to Lincoln Martí. Like,
Okay, yeah.
I went to Riverside Elementary for like a year, and then I went to a charter school in Doral.
Okay.
In Doral, it's all of the fancy Latinos,
Yeah.
right?
Fancy.
The fancy. And so going there, I was probably one of like 5 Black kids in the school, but I was the only Afro-Latina, right? So the other 4 Black kids, one was Haitian, but didn't really like, his last name was French, but he just kind of passed by. And then the other 3 kids were like Black American. So we grouped up, but I'm still a little different. So I would still go and fit in with the Latinos, right? My like closest friends were like Peruvian, Cuban, Honduran, Nicaragua. Like, I just fit in where I could, but I still didn't fit in. And so for me, it was like, okay, I gotta see how to move here, how to move there, right? I had to grow up knowing these people's families don't really fuck with me, to be honest. And I've heard it, right? Where it's been, yeah, but don't play with that little girl. No se juega con la negrita.
Wow.
That's what I grew up hearing. For what reason? I don't know. It's not that serious to me, but it's not that serious that they had to say that. It is serious in saying that.
Right.
And so microaggressions came from mostly Latinos to me. Other Latinos who are like, I'm confused because I know you got people in your country that look like me. Most people do. And so I will say that my mom taught me, growing up in Little Havana, she said, always keep yourself like right here in peace and let them talk first. Let them say whatever they have to say. I've seen many times where my mom would hold her tongue and let people go off on a tangent and switch it right there. Excuse me. I heard what you said about me. I just wanted to let you know and let it off. And I watch my mom like, yeah, that's what I like.
Right.
But I was able to literally pass as whatever. For a long time, I just passed as Black American. I can. My name, again, is very American. I look whatever. I can look whatever.
Yeah.
And so in high school, I took it as far as taking Spanish for non-Spanish speakers. And so why not?
Yeah.
Y'all don't think I'm Hispanic. Right?
Yeah.
Nobody believes me anyway.
I also took Spanish because You had to take an
Yeah,
elective.
I took something. I took Spanish for non-Spanish speakers.
Yeah.
I said, this is going to be an easy A.
Right.
Until the day that I corrected the teacher.
Ooh.
Oh, I corrected the teacher because she was saying something wrong. And I said, you can't teach them this. 'Cause
Was
then
the
they're-
teacher Hispanic?
Yes.
Okay.
But something in her Spanish was off.
Okay. No, because I've seen like white
No, they're
American
definitely- yeah,
people
no, there
teach
are.
Spanish.
So, no, she was Hispanic, but there was something in her Spanish. So I was like, you're saying this, but not all countries say this way. And you're going to make everybody say it like. And so I got in trouble. And they called my mama down to North Miami Senior High School. And my mama was like, well, was she right? Was she right? And I was like, well, I was right. And my mom said, what happened? And they were like, oh, she was right. And then they pulled me out of Spanish for non-Spanish speakers. And then my mom was like, actually, we're from Costa Rica. So I know that she was right because she speaks Spanish fluently.
Yeah.
And then I got put in Spanish for AP.
Oh,
Spanish for Spanish speakers.
dang. Not the AP.
And I put in AP Spanish for, and I was like, holy shit, this is a different level. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I learned acentos. I was like, hold on, I don't know where to put these little,
Right.
the little thing that I don't know where it goes, but I know now. But like, I was able to just kind of maneuver my way into whatever. I will say that for the most part, I mean, I like fitting in
Yeah.
wherever I can.
Yeah.
I like being wherever I can. But it was like kind of like the feeling of being othered a lot of my life was like, damn, like, this is not a good feeling.
But
to-
this is something that you come to experience when you get here, because in Costa Rica is your
segregated.
oh
It's segregated.
There we
So
go.
I grew up in a black city where we speak English. We speak Spanish and English, right?
Mhm.
But you grow up knowing that you're black first. In the part of Costa Rica that I'm from, you're black first. Here are your roots. This is how your people got here. We keep our culture.
Mhm.
We speak patois to this day.
Oh, okay. Specifically
in
in the-
Limon. yeah.
okay.
Because the way that came to be is segregation, right? Jamaicans came from Jamaica to Costa Rica to help build the country's railroad. And Costa Rica said, we will give you this land. We're not going to pay you, but we'll give you the land. You can do whatever you want with it. And then it turned out, oh, we're not going to give you, like, we can't take you back home now. So you got to figure it out from here.
Yeah.
And also, you cannot leave this city.
Oh, okay, I see.
And so there are 7 provinces in Costa Rica. Limon is one, the Caribbean side. We could not leave.
Wow.
So what happens when you got to stay there? You procreate with all the black people there. So that's it. It stays black. It's still black
to this day?
It's not segregated anymore. Like,
Oh,
you can,
okay.
you can leave now.
Okay.
But that was maybe 50, 60 years ago.
Right. I mean,
That they just were like, until this day, it's still like, oh, immediately they see you, oh, I know where you're from. It's always a negative connotation. It's just drugs and drugs and
Mhm.
violence there. That's not the truth. There's drugs and violence, yes, but there's drugs and violence everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's a negative connotation in the country itself. It's why you don't see that side of the country. They purposely did that, where you'll hear about Costa Rica and it's beautiful this and this and that,
Right.
but you don't see nothing else.
Yeah.
It looks very white on TV, on camera, in the media. It's on purpose,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So growing up in Costa Rica, in my province is very black. They also are indigenous. The indigenous people of Costa Rica are in my province. And then the poor Spaniard people, which will be like the white Latinos, the poor Spaniard people or the mestizo people were in that province as well. Whoever needed to make money some way and work on the sugarcane farms,
Gotcha.
that's where they were. But even there in the country, it's like, it's still a little off, right? You'll see the little offhanded comments that are said to the black people there, like, oh, there's what is the saying? It's like the insult that they say to black people is negro Congo. That's an
Mm.
insult, right? As in like an African. It's like,
Okay.
that's wild, like of the country Congo. But it's like, why would you say that?
Right.
Like, why? That's not. So it's everywhere,
Yeah.
including inside the country. So I felt it a little bit everywhere, right?
Mm.
I felt it growing up, and like, let's be real. I'm gorgeous. I'm
Yes.
very pretty. But growing up, it was a lot of, oh, like people are calling me ugly. Why are you calling me ugly? Like, okay, am I really ugly? However, my mom already went hard. Mom already,
Thank God for
mom went
mom.
hard, honey. The face card, this is my mama. The face card is unmatched. I look just like her. And so my mom did everything she could to make sure that I was built up in my self-esteem because she knew how she was raised
Right.
in Costa Rica and then coming here to the US, right? She knew what it was to be a dark-skinned Black girl, a dark-skinned Latina specifically.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, yeah, you're always going to be pit against what the standard of Latinas are supposed to look like
Right.
to the media, right? They don't include us in that. And my mom did her best to make sure that I knew who I was, knew my roots. My mom even went as far as, I'll say that most of my family did not do this, marrying a Black man. Also, they're both from Costa Rica though. Most of our family did not do that, right? A lot of our family just married lighter people. Yeah, exactly. Marrying up, right? Mejorando
La raza.
They did that as a result of what's ingrained in them.
Right.
They don't know better. You can't do better, right? My mom went hard to make sure, no, it stops here
Right.
right now. And my grandma didn't do that either. So my grandma also married a Black man.
Mhm.
He was lighter than her. So like there's a little, but my mom went hard her whole life to make sure, girl, you are a little Black girl.
Mhm.
It don't matter. Listen, don't think
Right.
it's sweet. You are a little Black girl. And yes, you are Latina, but remember how you're viewed in this world.
Right.
And that's always going to be the first thing. That's always going to be the first way you're viewed. And I said, cool.
How is the experience when you're in European countries?
I have traveled to Greece, Italy, France, and Belgium so far. Greece, they thought I was like I was cute. I was like 21. I was skinny and I wore high heels. They were like, who are you? And that was like my experience. Like I didn't get any. They stared at me a lot and it's kind of like, who is that? I was also with like white people.
Okay.
In Italy, it was very much like, okay. We wonder who she could be. This was for work, so now I'm with rich people.
Okay.
So it's completely
different
different
right.
when you're traveling.
How
with,
you're received is differently.
You're traveling with super wealthy people.
Right.
Like their names are known, so by default, it don't matter who you are. You're with them.
You got to be of a certain caliber.
You're somebody important. In France and Belgium, I did have like a bit of a different experience. In France, it was like, you're just African, so we're gonna treat you. You're not really. France is also just not a super friendly country, so it might be that. I wouldn't say that I had any awful experiences in Europe. It's just like little, like they'll ignore you in
Right.
the store.
France is a skip, by the way.
France, what?
It's a skip.
Hold on, hold on.
Nah,
Hold
it's a
on,
skip.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, dog.
Listen,
It's a skip.
don't skip Paris.
I'll
But
skip Paris
another
again.
friend also
Skip.
told me to skip.
It's a skip. I'm sorry. It's a skip.
Hold on, 2 days.
At least.
2 days.
No, that's the max.
That
Like
is-
I don't feel like you need
I
more.
have a French last name, so I would like to know where it comes from. So I guess I gotta
2 days
go.
max.
I'd give
Look
it.
in the archives, find out
Being
where.
kind, I'd give it 3. They're not friendly to Americans. If you speak English, they're not friendly
not
to
looking
you.
at
So that's what I
And-
was wondering because my sister lives in Switzerland, but she is more trigueñita than
Mhm.
me, and her hair is a lot curlier than mine. And so she first went to Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong, they was just like constantly always staring at her, like they had no idea what she was.
Yeah.
So now she's in Switzerland, and she has mentioned that if she starts speaking Spanish, they soften up.
That's my same experience in Europe. Before I speak English, we'll speak Spanish.
Yeah.
One of my cousins, she was born in Costa Rica, grew up in Costa Rica. She was a model and moved to Italy. And so now she speaks Italian fluently. When I went to Italy, I was with her at some point. And when I tell you, like, immediately they kind of look at you. And then when you speak Spanish, they're like, oh, okay, where are you from? Because there are a lot of Latinos also in Italy.
Right.
So there's going to be some connection. You're either speaking Italian or you're speaking Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And I did see the difference in how they treat you when you're not American.
Right. And so that's what it is, the not American part. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, you're
Yeah.
not some dumb American.
America, the American passport might suit you in some places in Europe.
Right.
Just the privilege of being American.
Right.
But in some places, I would rather
But
be
culturally, they're not
culturally,
really.
I'm
Nah, they're not rocking with you.
Yeah, they're not fucking with
They're
you.
not rocking with you.
No, I'm from, and then like, oh, Costa Rica, da, 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 da. And it's like, yeah, you talking about all the other places out people know about. Oh, yeah, amazing.
Yeah. You touched on something with your family and how your mom made it her mission to not only instill like you are a little Black girl, this is how you are going to be viewed in the world, but also going as far as like purposely marrying a Black man. She makes this decision and obviously clearly like has the conversations with you, which a lot of families don't.
Mhm.
Do you feel a sense of responsibility to enlighten your family? Because you said some of them did marry to mejorar la raza.
So listen, my family's hard-headed. So what they do is what they gonna do. You can't really talk to them about stuff. They're not people that are open to things for the most part, but it's also as a result of they're from the campo for the most part. So if you don't know better, you can't do better.
Right.
It's not my job to go back and fix it, but hopefully now the younger kids are seeing different. They haven't so far, unfortunately. They haven't so far, because a lot of me seeing my boy cousins date and marry, I was like, oh, y'all not marrying and dating women that look like me at all.
Right.
It's like, what is that? So that did something to my self-esteem, because I'm like,
Oh, wow.
my family members don't like women that look like me. And so you watch that and you're like, okay, what message is this sending me here?
Right.
And I grew up there with them. So I'm like, but they always like treated me like a princess. So I'm like, you're treating me like a princess. And I'm like the baby, but y'all not
Right.
interested romantically in the women that look like your mom, literally, right? Because it's most of the women that married and had kids with Spaniard or lighter men.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm like, your mom looks like me,
Right.
but you chose differently. And it's just a result of what's so ingrained in them seeing how their moms were treated, or their other siblings or their other family members who were just talked about really badly. And
Right.
just as a result of your skin tone, right? I will say that I do feel, I feel the responsibility to, if I have children, to make sure that I do my best to continue what my mom did. Will I? You never
Right.
You never know, right? But for the most part, I will say that I've dated Black men exclusively, because I'm like, I can't even give my family the room to say that I was gonna go and do what they wanted to do. Right? I went home last year to Costa Rica, and I had a driver who actually became my friend. So we stopped into my barrio. It's more like a pueblo. It's more like a town, like a village, if you will. And they were like, "Is that your boyfriend?" They were so happy. Is that your boyfriend? And I'm like, "No, this is the driver I came with." Are you sure that's not your boyfriend? Mind you, he's like maybe 15 years older than me. The driver, super nice man. But the way that they were happy in their soul to be like, "That's your boyfriend? Es tu pareja." No. Like, watch out. And I've never taken a man home to my family before. Like, it's just not, I've never done it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why y'all was so hyped that this could possibly be my partner? Like,
Right.
I didn't, it made me feel like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
And I was like, you would think that all these years later it would change, and it hasn't.
Right.
It hasn't. So that's something that I think about a lot, is like the expectation from my family that they think that I'm going to marry somebody lighter or white or whatever it is. And it's not all of my family. It's a very specific subset of them that think that way and think that I'm going to continue it. So,
gotcha. Yeah. And I'm curious, you just never had that conversation with those cousins? Just,
no,
no,
because when you're in it, you don't see it.
True.
When you're in it, you don't see it. And I want to say that in all the cousins, there are like 3 of us that are pretty dark. I'm like the second one. There's one girl cousin who's darker than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw how awful she was treated.
Oh.
I saw how they talked about her. And I'm just a little bit lighter than her. And I remember that they just treated her so badly. And so she now has 2 children. And obviously she loves her husband, but he's much lighter. He's a Spaniard, like kind of a mix.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I wonder how much of the way she was treated affected that and played into that. And I'm like, if we knew better, we would do better. But like, there's nothing that can be done. And I know that the reason my mom went so hard in raising me this way is because her grandma is not a Black woman. Her grandma is an indigenous woman of Costa Rica. And while it would be like, oh, we should come together, it was very much the opposite. Like, she was exiled from her family for marrying a Black man.
You're indigenous.
The indigenous, yeah.
Grandmother. Okay.
She was exiled from her family for marrying a Black man, and then proceeded to like berate her Black children. And so my mom was like, I saw what happened there.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. So like, her own grandma treated her badly.
Right.
And I'm like, I hate that. I hate seeing it.
Yeah.
I experienced it on my paternal side, where my grandma loved me very much, did nothing. But my cousin, who was lighter than me, was a clear favorite.
I see.
Clear favorite. And it was little things that would happen and the little things I would notice. Like my mom told me, she was like, I never wanted you to have a relaxer in your hair. My mom was natural for a long time in her life. I never wanted you to have a relaxer in your hair. Your grandma did it over the summer.
Ooh, without
when
your,
I was
without your mother's
Exactly.
consent.
So when I was there for the summer, she was like, she just said she was tired of dealing with your nappy hair.
And what was your grandmother's hair?
Oh, it was curly because she's like
'cause
Panamanian Costa Rican.
The indigenous?
No, it's the other one.
Oh, okay.
But still, even so, like Panamanian Costa Rican.
Oh, okay,
so like
okay.
A little bit, like, so she had curly hair. She was a little lighter brown. And so just the colorism. So I was aware of that super early in my life.
Yeah.
Like, there is no escaping it for me.
Yeah.
Between colorism, racism, classism, I knew that from like young because it's what I grew up experiencing. And so when people talk about it now, I'm like, yep, I know. My whole life. So yeah, I would say that my mom consciously made the effort, but she also knows that like I can't change them. I'm the same way. I can't change them. I'm not about to preach to y'all. I'm not about to preach to y'all about it because you don't want to hear me anyway. And as a result of trauma that you experienced, this is why you're making these decisions.
Right.
Mom said, I'm just gonna do something different. I'll stop it right here.
Right.
And I'm very grateful that she did that because growing up in the US, as a dark-skinned girl, as a Latina, anything, just as a dark-skinned girl, it was like, oh, I see why my mom made
sure
I see why she went that hard.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense now. And so I do the same thing to little black girls now.
Right.
Like, I'm going to hype you up hard.
Yeah.
Because looking at it, I'm like, why would my mom, like, you always like call me beautiful? Like, you're doing too much. Girl, you don't got to tell me every 5 seconds. Like, you're doing too much. And I'm like, oh. That's why.
Yeah, I'm doing too much because the world will do more.
Exactly. And so I'm just like really grateful for my mom doing that. Like, also, I look just like her.
Yeah.
And to me growing up, I was like, I don't care. Like, you can call me ugly. That's fine. I don't really care. 'Cause my mama is very beautiful.
Right.
Like, honey, my mom grew up here in the US in the 90s in Miami. Mom was outside. Mom was outside with the Miami Heat players. Like, she was a beautiful girl.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I look like her.
Yeah.
I look exactly like her. That means I'm going to look like that when I grow up. So you're a liar. I'm not ugly.
Yeah.
You're a liar. And when I grew up and I realized, oh, they were calling me ugly because they're attributing super black features, super African features to be ugly. And I'm like, something ain't matching up here because the models that they pull for the runways, they got black feet, like they got the lips, the nose, all that, right? Something is not adding up here. So I'm not really ugly. Y'all are ugly on the inside to be attributing like black features to being ugly.
To ugliness, yeah. It's just so unfortunate that like it really is just the unlearning of it.
We got a long way to go.
A long way to go.
We got a long way to, and I will say that this generation is much better and is getting better about it. Colorism is still a little shaky here, but we're doing much better than our parents and our grandparents because we're making an effort to integrate ourselves with each other's cultures.
Right.
Right? It's not like, oh, okay, you're Latino and you stay here. You're black and you stay, everybody's together, like what it feels like to me now, right?
Yeah.
We're all kind of more open to doing things. And then a lot of us are like, oh, I don't care if my mama said this. Like, I'm gonna go.
Right.
It's cool. Like, girl, like a lot of us are simply saying, oh, okay, well, you grew up thinking this, but that was wrong.
Right.
And I don't have to do that. And so it just takes more of us to kind of be less scared of being, I would say, like, ostracized.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, yeah, like the shame of, like the family of, oh, if you disobey me, I won't talk to you. I'm going to disown you.
I'm so grateful that that would not be the experience that I've had, or that I don't think I've seen anyone in my family get treated that way for like not marrying whoever people thought they should be married to. So I don't think that's ever been a fear of mine, but I guess that is a scary thought.
Terrifying. And I mean, I want more people to, speaking of like family and things like that, be less scared of losing your family. And not to say like do stuff to lose your family on purpose, but if it's something that like, is not like wrong, and it's not hurting anybody, and it's just your family thinks this way, just go do it.
Yeah.
Just go do it. Because it's a lot of us that is like, oh, my family wanted me to be this in career, and I didn't want to do that.
Right.
and then they didn't do what they wanted to do. They did what their family wanted them to do.
Right.
And then later on they regret it. Or, oh, I went to do this career and I hate it. Or I spent so much money on it and I did this. Just do what you want to do.
Right.
Because your family, they going to have to get over it at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Like, at the end of the day, they going to need you later on.
Right.
Like,
Right.
If they want you to be happy and thriving and they expect to be taken care of later on, they should foster openness
Right.
and relationships where you can make your own choices.
Right. I think too, when you realize that not just family, like it applies to family, but once you understand and realize that a lot of the things that people hold on to, like let's just say like following traditions or whatever, or hangups that you kind of come across in family settings, is really like at the end of the day, people will just hold on to anything that helps them make sense of why the fuck they're here.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can apply that to your own family and like understand, like you're saying, like a lot of these things are deep rooted. So for you, you're like, they're too hard headed. I understand. And I'm going to live my life in accordance.
Mm-hmm.
They're already there. It's not much I could do.
Yeah.
And so once you understand that and in a way give them grace,
You release it.
yeah, exactly.
You release it. Like a lot of times we will be mad at our parents for doing things like the wrong way.
Right.
What could they really do? When you look all the way back down the line,
Yeah.
what could they really do? So my choice here is I'm going to accept you how you are. And here are my two choices. I'm going to keep in contact with you or I'm going to bounce.
Right.
Because if you're not going to change, I'm not going to rack my brain trying to get you to understand me. I can't get anybody to understand me that's committed to misunderstanding me.
Right.
So my choices are bounce or stay there. And if
Yeah.
it's hurting me, I'm not staying there.
Yeah.
So
How did you get into being a doula and all of the things?
Okay. So my grandma in Costa Rica, my maternal grandma, my mom's mom, is the one who came here to the US.
Mhm.
She was a nurse in Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, nursing is like akin to being a doctor. Like your training is like what here a doctor would be. She came here, obviously could not work as a nurse, could not work as a doctor. So what do they all do when they come here? They clean houses or they take care of kids
Right.
or they take care of elderly people. So I grew up with my grandma doing that. She went from like taking care of kids to then cleaning houses to taking care of elderly people. To me, that's what I saw growing up. And there was no shame in it because this is how you build your life, your
Yeah.
family. The families that my grandma worked for in their homes, like with the grandparents or the children, they were always like, I went there with her. So I grew up right alongside those kids, those rich kids. And their family really meant it when they said, no, you're like family to us. Like they meant it when they said it. To this day, my aunts are still in contact with the kids that they took care of 30 years ago, 35, 40 years ago. So for me, I was like, okay, I see that that's a viable thing that I can do. I didn't intend to do it. I studied social work and I was in New York City trying to get a degree, living by myself, working hard. And so I got a job as a part-time nanny. And I was like, okay, I can do this because I could quit my retail job where I was working 40 hours making jack squats.
Right.
I took a nanny job and I was like, I'm making the same I was making at the retail job, working full time. And by the time like I was through my like first semester of college, like starting that, I was like, oh, hold on. I'm making more money as a part-time nanny than I would make with a bachelor's degree
And doing
in
social work.
I said, now wait a minute. As a part-time nanny, mind you, I had my whole life taking care of kids
Right.
here in Miami. Like, I mean, when I say like one of my best friends had a baby, like had two babies, she had twins. Our last year of high school, she was still in high school.
Dang, she had twins in high school. Oh, that's rough.
Imagine being 16.
That's rough.
Baby, I said, listen, hold on, we're going to make this work. Don't worry.
Oh.
And so those kids are 13. They're going to be 14 this year.
Oh, wow.
And that was my first experience with like kids, like me really being in there.
Being a village.
Being a village. And I said, okay, I know how to do this. And it's easy to me. It comes like this to me. I'm the eldest sister. Like, it just made sense to me.
Yeah.
So nannying then became, okay, hold on. I'm doing this part-time. What if, hear me out, what if I did this full-time? I was like, so these jobs are going to pay me $80,000 to take care of kids? I said, all right, well, we'll be dropping out of college. It's now the only reason I dropped out. Also, they want you to do a lot of free work.
Oh,
in
okay.
social work,
For the social work,
for
yeah.
your internship, you got to do like 20 hours of free work.
And I imagine it was very expensive for you to be an out-of-state student.
Well, at that point, I think I had like passed the time where I could be
Oh,
in-state.
okay.
But still, living in New York by yourself, going to school full time,
Yeah.
working full
It
time.
just wasn't adding
It
up.
wasn't adding up. And I said, I still got to take out student loans no matter
Right.
what. I said, you know what? I went to college. It was fun. Loved it. Great. Deuce, I got to go.
Yeah.
And so I decided I'm just going to be a nanny. And from there, I literally went up every year to a different kind of like job. I mean,
And different caliber of families, I
different
imagine.
I will say that I left my career making $150,000, my whole compensation package, like full benefits. I mean, everything. People look at it like, oh, you're a nanny? I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand.
Right.
This is a real, like, I got a 401k, honey.
Yes.
I got a Roth. I mean, I got benefits. Like, this is a real job. So I, as a result of, this is what I know how to do. I know how to be a community. Like, life in Latin culture is being community, right? This is second nature to me.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? And also, I study social work. So, like, all of these things are kind of tying in together.
Mm-hmm.
That made me say, all right, let's just do this full time. And maybe one day you'll go back to school. And maybe you'll figure it out from there. And, like, I mean, when I say I've worked for, like, some really incredible people that have, like, made me open my eyes to I'm not just a nanny. Like, it's not so cut and dry.
Right.
I used to say I'm just a nanny. But it's like it's much more than
Yeah.
being just a nanny. You're really there helping people raise their kids. And when I decided to leave being a nanny, it was just so I could go to the next sector, which was being a doula.
Being a doula, yeah.
So I went back to school to become a doula. And I mean, it just feels like home for me.
Yeah.
This field of working with children and families and making sure that, one, children feel seen, but two, that parents feel supported. Because in American culture, there's no support for parents
Right.
that is not paid for. But there's also no support in like letting you feel badly in parenting. It's hard. People want to put on like roses and daisies. It's not roses and daisies. Parenting is hard.
Right.
And if you don't have the right support, it feels impossible to just catch your breath. And so as a result of me seeing like my mom have community, literally mom could say, here you go, take these kids for the whole summer. Here you go. Like I want to be that. I wanted to be that. And that's how I got here.
That experience of being a doula must be wild.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, I really do love it. I love being able to support people from pregnancy all the way through and just watching families change and grow. I mean, I'm always excited when someone tells me, oh, we're pregnant. Like there's a lot of people, it's like friends, people that I know, and they're like, yeah, we're pregnant. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
thank you. And for a lot of people, I'm like the only doula they might know or come across.
Right.
And a lot of the work I do is community work. I will talk to people for free. Well, people in community, right?
Yeah.
Like I grew up with you. You know somebody that knows somebody. I'll talk to you for free. I don't
Right.
care. Because if you can get access to the information that I have, that's why I work for all these rich people.
Right.
So that I can take more free work. So I can care for the people that I grew up with and I know. So
Right. Thank you so much for being here. This conversation, I wish we could go longer because you're just a wealth of knowledge.
Don't just get her number. Like,
Yeah.
this is a friend. This is a friend.
No,
you
I'm
with.
about to invite you to Puerto Rico. You're coming. You're coming.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, if you have a Costa Rican saying that maybe you grew up with, or maybe it's something that, you know, people in your town always say.
yeah, there are two. One is more like everyone that goes to Costa Rica knows it. And the whole country, pura vida,
Right.
pure life. But what it really means is like, just relax, bro. Life, just chill.
Yeah.
To me, that's what I interpret it as. Pura vida, life is good. Everything is great. You're going to be fine. That's how I interpret that one.
Yeah.
And the second one is specific to the people of my province, Limon, and it's limonense soy donde quiera voy.
Yeah.
Wherever I go, please know that's where I'm from.
I love it. Awesome.
Wait, before we do the actual game, because she brought pictures.
Pictures, yeah.
So like, I just want her to talk through some of the photos real quick, if you could. And I'm gonna make sure this shot on you, but like, take us through some of those photos, like the
Yeah.
significance of them, real
Okay.
quick.
I'm going to start with my mama, because I look just like her. This is my mom as a kid, but everybody thinks this is me. I mean, I think a little bit of her having a Black husband was that she wanted to make sure I look just like her. These are my parents at their wedding. My mom, like me, is very much, she's into a lot of stuff, but she doesn't care about a lot of stuff. So this was her wedding. And I was in attendance in her belly at the wedding because she didn't want a wedding. She just didn't care about that stuff. And so you'll see my dad, like, with all the rings, like, again, them. I'm just trying to look for, like, my grandparents. These are mostly, my dad passed away when I was 16, so I keep all the pictures. I come from a legacy family in Costa Rica. And by legacy, I mean that my dad and his brother played pro basketball for the city of Limon. So this is my uncle and me.
That's far.
So, like, people know me. I can go there and people know, are you this person's daughter? And I'm like, damn, like, you can see it in my face like that? Like, that's wild. And I'm very proud of the family that I come from because, like, I mean, it's kind of like being a celebrity a little bit. These are my paternal grandparents. This is my dad's mom and this is my dad's dad. You can't really see him, but like I said, I really grew up in Costa Rica. Like, this is in Costa Rica. They sent me there and were like, yeah, girl, go have fun. Like, you got it. Figure it out.
Yeah.
And then these are just pictures of me and my twin, my mama. I am a picture person. I love photos.
Yeah.
I love taking photos. And I'm happy that my family did what they did to keep all these memories for us.
Preserve that.
Preserve these memories. We don't got that no more.
We don't.
We don't. And so I love to look back at the people that aren't here anymore in these pictures and kind of like, oh, okay, I can now put things together that I didn't have back then when I was a kid, but now an adult, I'm like, okay, I can look through this and say, oh, this is what was happening here.
So I'm curious, is this familiar to you? Like, do you also have the same experience that a lot of us have had with?
You about to give me a container full of buttons.
Okay. So
Wait, no, but that's, it's crazy. It is so crazy that, like, through the entire Caribbean, that is known as the sewing
You
kit.
about to give me a container full of buttons and, like, sewing needles, and you know the little finger,
Yeah,
bananas.
that little finger
thimble.
thing, the thimble. That's what's about to be in there right now, right?
Is it?
Because it ain't gonna be cookies.
What if
What if it's
Oh,
cookies?
man.
That's cool, but
Oh,
I just
my
don't think
God.
it's cookies. In
you think it's buttons in here?
That's your
Chuchereques.
guess. That's your guess.
That's what we call it.
What is it?
Chuchereques. Just a bunch of stuff.
Chuchereques is like, we say in Puerto Rico, it's like chucherías, just like.
Chuchereques is a bunch of stuff.
All right, well, go ahead and open it and see if there's buttons in there.
Nah, I know, but it sounds like cookies in here. Wow. Better than
I know. I mean,
Show the
I
cam
like
real
that.
quick. Show the
we
cam.
had like our growing up Spanglish and not have
Yeah.
croquetas at some point.
You know what? I'll take it. I'll take it.
Oh my God. Well, thank you again so much for being so open and sharing your story. I really had a great conversation and also just a lot of affirming of things that I'm currently processing. So thank you so much
Of course.
once again for being here.
I am Shanice. My family's from Costa Rica, but I was born and raised here in Miami. And you're listening and watching Growing Up Spanglish. Thanks for having me.
Yo soy boricua.